So, what if your calendar is full, but your soul is still starving? Listen, most of us aren't overbooked because of purpose. We're overbooked because of pressure, you guys. Somewhere we started confusing hustle with value. We began using our output as evidence that we matter. Okay. We started to, and somehow get it confused that our productivity, our material gains, yeah, just any of our outputs is what matters. But here's the shift: you don't have to earn stillness, okay? You don't have to schedule your worth, and you don't have to hustle for peace. Listen, peace isn't what you find after you finish everything. It's what you practice as you become everything you already are, okay? Peace is something that we bring into the situation. All right. So in today's lesson, this isn't about doing less at all, right? We have people who are just highly productive and who are producing at mass amounts, all right? But this is about doing it with from wholeness, all right, and not from a performance, all right? If you're built to produce, then produce, right? That's your harvest. However, we want to talk more about the intention of why you're producing and if those things that you're producing is in some way tied to your worth. So again, this lesson is not about doing less. It's about doing it from wholeness, and that is your new foundation. Okay. Um, if you know me, where you going to the office, right? I'm always creating. But what I had to learn was that the things I create is a reflection of who I am. It's not who I am, right? And I had to start to, in a sense, unbraid my worth from, from my title, from my degree, from my relationship status, from the type of car I drive, right? I am who I am, right? And because of who I am, then I get to create a standard for these outputs, and I get to say what those outputs mean in my life. And there's a piece in that. So if I produce something and it works, great. If I produce something and it doesn't work, great. Okay, what did I learn, right? And not really tying myself to like this perfectionism. And that is one of the things that I definitely have to help my clients unbraid, right? That listen, as in this grown age of an adult, right? We have to start unbraiding ourselves from the outputs, because once you put it out there, right, it's so many intersections, so many other people's narratives, so many other things that can get into that has nothing to do with you, right? But in some way we will hold it all together. So again, today's title, listen, enough and enoughness in action, how wholeness really shift your productivity. We're talking about uh focus and function. Okay. It is self-validation Friday. Self-validation Friday. And this whole week, we're talking about embracing your enoughness, which is about this Rise series, right? The Rise series, we talked about releasing the guilt of fear, releasing the grip that fear has on you, interrupting guilt and internalized expectations, surrendering to perfection. And we're wrapping this up by talking about embracing your enoughness. As you see in the thumbnail, rest is not a reward, right? It's a reflection of your worth. And just to kind of summarize this lesson so that you can stay, right? This session or this lesson really challenges productivity ties to worth and teaches you how to operate from this place of wholeness instead of hustle. All right. Listen, your intention early on, we're going to set it. I work from wholeness, not from needing to prove anything, right? We are creative. We are creatives. And one of the first commands that God gave us is to be fruitful and multiply. And if you've ever done a garden or done anything, you know that every head of lettuce is not perfect. Every tomato that that you go to harvest is not perfect, right? But in some way, we will want perfect outputs and it will actually stunt our productivity. So here's your powerful um question, right? What would your life feel like if productivity flowed from peace and not from pressure? All right. I just want you to sit with that, because purpose isn't about proving, right? It's about your presence. And when we start to move with more intention, right, there's a feeling that comes with that, that is so much more fulfilling, right? That I did that, right? I did it. And then guess what? God has given me more opportunity to, perfect, correct, or whatever. But let me put it out there. All right. So how much of your energy has been spent performing for validation instead of producing from alignment? And a lot of us are not in alignment because we're producing for validation from others, right? And I'm saying this very softly. And we're looking for validation from others, and the others that we're seeking validation from is sometimes in the same struggle that we are, right? In a sense of they're still trying to figure out their life, right? And it's something about the human dynamic where it's just easier to nitpick or judge the thing that's outside of us than to really go internally and dial that down, right? And really just accept people for who they are, and give our feedback from kindness, and bring in some love and compassion versus this harsh judgments, or you should have did this, or you could have did this. So I'm asking, how much time have you spent performing for validation instead of just producing from alignment? Listen, I produced it, and you know who's great at this? Your kids. Listen, your kids will, when they were little, right, they will take a popsicle stick and color it, and the colors ain't all in the line, and and it's just, listen, stick it up to a paper, write something on it with the, you don't even know what the words are, right? And hand it to you like it's the greatest gift, right? And you're looking at it like, and your teacher let you bring this home, huh? But listen, they produced that from alignment. They wanted to make this for mama. They wanted to make this for daddy, right? That was the alignment. I want to make my mom a gift. I want to make my dad a gift. It didn't matter like what it looked like. I ain't trying to make this perfect. And that was their joy. And when they handed it to you, or if it was the letter they wrote or whatever, the word spelt wrong, but they produced from this place of alignment, and you could see it in their eyes. So you can't even really say nothing about the outcome of the image or the gift that they gave you, because you know that they did it from their hearts, and it's the best they knew how to do. And if we could tap into that, right, if we can tap into that same type of fulfillment, because we are producing from alignment and not to seek validation, right? They're not saying, how good did I do, mama? How good did I do this, dad? You know what they're saying? Did you like it? I made this for you. Merry Christmas, Happy Valentine's Day, whatever, that, for Thanksgiving, they put the hand on the turkey, and it's just they handprint, and then they color all out the lines, and they bring it to you like, here's my gift. Listen, they are doing that from alignment, all right? Not for validation from any of their friends, from anybody, because I just built this gift and I want to give it to the person that I love. Listen, hustle may bring results, but wholeness, it brings about a rhythm, that same rhythm that you have with your child when your child does something out of alignment and not to produce. And we want to get back to that again. All right. So here's our reflection today. We shift from doing to be enough into doing from a place that is kind of like we already are enough. All right. All right. So we're going to shift from doing to be enough to doing from a place that is already enough. All right. You're not here to prove, you're here to be in flow. All right. And find that flow. Right. And sometimes, you in flow and you may step out of flow, and then we just going to get right back into it. Right. We may detour off of flow, and then we're going to get right back into it, because we are here in this experience to experience flow, and flow from you, not flow to you, because as you give, so shall be given to you. So when you learn how to let it flow out of you, then guess what? The consequence of that is naturally something gonna flow back, especially when it's flowing from a place of alignment. All right, so why this session really matters. Listen, in a world that consistently reward outputs, it's easy to equate busyness with value. But when your identity is really tied to your productivity, listen, rest starts to feel like laziness. All right. And this session really invites you to disrupt the hustle mindset and really remember that you don't have to earn your breath, right? You can take a moment to breathe, right? You just have to use it wisely. All right. You don't have to earn your breath. You just have to learn how to use it wisely and take those moments to let your nervous system know, listen, I know we had a busy day, but I'm going to relax and reset. On Wednesday, you know, I have this big launch that I'm doing in September. And so I'm putting the curriculum together. So I was up to like 6 in the morning, right? Just making sure that the curriculum fit and flowed and all of that while I was up till 4. But when my mind is up like that, then it's hard to really just kind of rest and, just go right to sleep. So I'm up to like 6 in the morning, 7 o'clock. I hear the birds chirping. And I told myself in that moment, what you produced on Wednesday was, because we have AI and all of that, like you produced in those, I don't know, from 8 till 2 or 4, you produce what somebody would take a month to produce. It's okay to get your rest. And so yesterday I did not record because I took time to allow my body to catch up with that, to breathe. Like I knew that was a lot of mental agility, a lot of emotional fortitude that was used. And I'm like, okay, we're going to take a break. All right, we're going to take a break. So again, here's your intention reminder. I work from wholeness, not from needing to prove anything. All right. So good afternoon. Okay. And welcome back. It's Self Validation Friday. And this is your reminder that who you are is already enough. All right. You are not your inbox. You are not your checklist. You are a soul behind the strategy. All right. And that is where the power is. So I want to welcome you back to Life Lessons with Dr. Sheila Little. If you're new here, I am Dr. Sheila Little, clinical therapist for 20 years, but now I serve as an emotional strategist and business therapist. This is Life Lessons, and Life Lessons is a part of Project Life. And Project Life is this membership, right? Collective community where my goal is to help you turn theory into practice. All right. So drop a word in the chat. Let me know how you're feeling on this Self-Validation Friday, right? It's the end of the week. We're wrapping it up just like we're wrapping up this Rise series. So who is this? I'm going to drop my word in the chat. I am feeling blessed and highly favored. All right. Like I said, just being able to find flow and be from there. And like I said, I'm like any other human being. It's like just get to the desk. So I probably told you guys this before. Like I took all my laptops from home. I don't have any computers at home or anything like that because, like a human being, I would just pop the computer up, do work from my, bed, do work from my dining room. And I just like that is not what I want my house to feel like. I want to sit at my dining room table and eat dinner with my family or eat breakfast with my family or sitting and have conversations with my kids. That's what I want my dining room table to be. I have an office. I'm going to take everything to the office. So, but that is also kind of like a Miyagi type of effect of that gets me to the office. All right. So then once I sit at the desk, right, and I start working, then the energy starts to flow. And then it's hard to kind of get me from the desk. But that is where I find flow at. And I know that, right? And I know that. And I'm not thinking about laundry or hearing my son walk in and distracted or anything like that, because this is my place of work. All right. This is my place of work. So I'm feeling blessed and highly favored to, in a sense, have the gift of creativity and to tap into that. So what is the word that you want to drop in the chat on today? For a brief minute, let's just, again, get still in our body. We know that a part of Project Life is the whole project life is to, get us back in our bodies again and really teach the nervous system that you're safe. Listen, you safe. You safe to do anything and everything you want to do. All right. And because the nervous system is such the driver force of everything, and because we have these very sophisticated bodies, right? A lot of times we are repelling the things that we desire unconsciously because it doesn't feel safe. Okay. And so our role is to reparent our nervous system, reparent the child in us, and and get it to know that, it's safe to expand, it's safe to change, it's safe to grow, it's safe to have money, it's safe to love, it's safe to trust, right? All of the things that a lot of times we don't even consciously think about. So who is today's session for? Listen, today's session is for you, for the person who feels guilty resting unless everything is crossed off the list. All right. This is for you if you're the high achiever who consistently battles with burnout. This is for the caregiver, the leader, or the perfectionist who feels like rest is laziness. All right. This is for the person who equates productivity to personal value. And this is for you. If this is for anyone who's been praised for what they produce more than who they are. And this is for you. This is for those people or those in a spiritual journey who want to reframe their productivity through grace and not from guilt. Okay, listen, I know what it feels like when you were little, when you were getting the grades, or when you started college. Like, it's like people really do notice you when you are producing, right? You get the accolades, and something about the brain that becomes very euphoric, right? And so we start to do more, and it's science, right? I mean, any research that you've seen, right? Like, there was a research done I read the other day about a it was, I don't know if it was mice, or I don't know what the animal was, but anyway, the animal, it was two, right? And so they fed the first animal. Well, the whole conversation was about why do people deal with people who reject them. And so what the research shows was that the first animal, they gave it food, and every time it hit, like, the food would come. So every time it hit, the food would come. Every time it hit, the food would come, right? And then the second animal, it did the same thing. It started to hit, the food would come. It started to hit, the food would come. Well, what they did with the second one, though, is they started to make intermittent hitting. So it didn't hit every time the food came, right? It only hit, maybe every 3 times, or every 4 times, or every 5 times, but it was very consistent with the first animal. Now, what ended up happening was, when the food ran out for the first animal, when it hit and no food came, guess what? The animal walked away, because it's like, oh, it's no more food. But because it was sporadic with the second animal, that animal actually tired itself out by hitting the thing and trying to get food. And what it was a demonstration of was relationships. Why do people stay in relationships where people don't pay attention to them? Well, when you in a relationship and a person gives you all of this attention and then takes it away, and then gives it back and then takes it away, your mind is like, oh, well, maybe this time they're going to do it, or maybe this time they're going to do it. So you're texting and you're calling just to see if that's going to be the time that the person, has the breakthrough, has the conversation. But it's really harmful. Like I said, that animal ended up burning itself out because it didn't really know, like, when the food was going to come anyway. I give that research because, just like we are conditioned, people are conditioned. And when you're getting praised, right? When you're getting praised for something, it's telling the brain, do more of that, because that feels good. But when we grow up and we become adults, this is the power that we have. We are the only species that can override this program, and we can become the driver of the program, right? So it's as if now you step back and you're like, okay, I know that a mind, right, brain, heart, that you are a system that whatever I give you, you get back, right? So I'm going to consciously now give you things or disrupt things because I want to program you to be a certain way. And that is the next step. That is really what adulthood is about, right? It's about stepping back and parenting the version of you that was not parented in the most healthy way for the person you are now. Okay, for the person you are now. So this lesson is essentially for anyone who's ready to say, I'm not a machine. I'm a masterpiece, and I will no longer sacrifice my peace for performance. All right. So here's our heart check-in. Where have you mistaken hustle for worth, and what has that cost you? All right. Let this sit in. Let's just sit with this for a minute, because hustle often feels righteous, right? But beneath it is the question, am I enough to stop? Right? Is this enough yet? Do I need to do more? How can I make that better? Right? And this is where we need to reset. All right. So here's 5 truths that I need you to know to really kind of bring this together. Okay. Hustle isn't healing. Hustle without healing leads to burnout. Okay. You can you can be productive and still wounded. You can build empires on exhaustion and still feel empty. Hustle might get you the applause, but it won't give you the peace. All right. We see so many. I worked with CEOs all over the world. So I've worked with CEOs in Africa. I've worked with Chinese CEOs. I've worked with people in CEOs in New York. I've worked with CEOs in California and Texas, like from every demographic. All right. And there is this sense of burnout that they're feeling, but they still feel this need to produce, right? Even though their personal life is falling apart, they feel like, I just got to keep producing. I just got to keep moving, right? So you can definitely still be productive and still wounded. So we don't want to equate your income or your position to healed, right? We don't want to do that, because what we also know is that there's a professional you and there's a personal you. And when we talk about these characters that we play, or yeah, like you can put this character out for the world, for your friends, for your colleagues, right? But these lessons is about you when you get home. Okay, how do you feel? All right, how do you feel in your skin? How do you feel when you look at yourself in your body, in the mirror? Do you even look at yourself in the mirror? Right? Are you being a friend to you? Right? Are you saying good job to you when you get home? Or are you like, I didn't do enough? All right, listen, real healing says, I no longer chase results to silence my unworthiness. All right, I no longer chase results to silence my unworthiness. Number 2, you are not more valuable when you're busy. All right, listen, our culture worships productivity, but God doesn't. All right. Your creator values your presence, not just your output, you guys. So value is rooted in who you are, not what you finish. All right. Listen, being busy doesn't make you better. It often makes you invisible to yourself. All right. And it's so great, because I mean, if you read Genesis, right, you know that each day was good, right? But each day was what it was, right? So on the first day, this was created, and then he stopped, right? Probably had more time, right? He got, right? He could have said, oh, I'm gonna push day 2 and I'm gonna accelerate this thing. So I'm gonna do this in day 2. No, what day 1 was day 1. And then he brought it to a close, right? And he saw that it was good. And then day 2 was everything that day 2 needed, right? And then he saw that it was good. And the same with day 3. And after the 6th day, on the 7th day, he rested, right? Okay, I'm done. All right. Now, even in that, if you go deeper, right, he delegated, right? So he told the water to bring forth, he told the water in the vegetation to bring forth the animals, right? Bring forth the animals in the vegetation. He didn't even do that. He gave that duty to the land and to the waters to do that, right? The only thing but he created the space for it to happen. The only thing that God created was humans, right? So he delegated. All right, he delegated it to the lands and the seas and to the vegetation to do this, to do that, right? And then on the 6th day, I think it was the 6th day, that's when he created man, right? And then it says, and then God created man, right? But all the other stuff, he created the space for it to do it and then delegate that. And so I think even our ability to delegate stuff. Listen, have your kids do that. Ask your spouse to help you with that. Get your coworkers involved, right? Hire you a personal assistant to do the things that you don't want to do. Hire you the cleaning person. Get the food prep people if you don't want to. Delegate off these responsibilities, because there's also a verse in the Bible that tells you to buy back your time, right? To buy back your time. This is being a steward, right? So in a sense, use the resources that you're creating in the income that you're creating to buy back your time, so that you can have peace in your body. And when you can have more peace in your body and more rest, right, then you can create more and you can do more. But when you're trying to do everything for everybody, and you don't trust people, and they're not going to do it the way you do it, well, nobody's going to do it like you do it. So you just got to trust what they do. Okay. Because I'm sure if God created the animals, he probably would have created them differently. But he chose to delegate that. Like, hey, y'all bring forth the animals. Now, if you don't believe me, go read the Bible. You'll see it yourself that God delegated the waters and the vegetation to bring forth the animals, and to bring forth the fish in the sea, and to bring forth the trees and things like that. So listen, being busy doesn't make you better. It often makes you invisible to yourself. All right. Number 3, stillness doesn't mean you're stuck. It means you're rooted. Okay. Listen, stillness allows you to ground, to center, and to hear. And this is why, even when we're scanning our bodies, I'm like, let's get soft in our ears, right? Because our ears, to me, I say it, they're prickery, right? And they're listening for the thing that it doesn't want to hear, so that you can react, right? But we need to train our ears to hear the things that we want to hear. And that's going to be reprogramming it, right? So stillness allows you to ground, to center, and to hear. Trees don't prove that they're alive by running, you guys. They grow up and they stay rooted, all right? Your deepest growth doesn't happen in motion. It happens in your presence, all right? In the beingness of who you are. Number 4, productivity is not your personality. It's a tool, not a trait, all right? Productivity is not your personality. It's a tool. It's a tool, not a trait. Don't confuse being efficient with being worthy. All right. You are not the organized one or the go-getter, all right, by identity. Okay, these are just functions. These are strengths. These are skill sets that you have, right? But they're not your essence. Your humanity is not a task to manage. Okay, your humanity and your soul is something that you have the gift of having to honor. All right, to honor. Number 5, the more your truth is, I'm so sorry. The more you trust your worth, the more ease you'll bring to your work. All right. The more you trust your worth, the more ease you'll bring to your work. Listen, when you stop working to prove something, guess what? Everything changes. All right. You make decisions from clarity, you show up with peace, and you detach from the pressure. All right. Worthiness isn't a distraction, it's a foundation. All right. Ease, ease is what happens when identity leads, not insecurity. All right, not insecurity. All right, listen, worthiness is the source, not a reward or true productivity. All right, why this matters, because when we try to earn worth through output, we trade our presence for performance. Okay, it's so important that we understand how important our presence is. Just being present with your kids, being present with yourself, being present with your mate, putting the phone down, and you're going to hear the chatter, you're going to hear the things on your phone, cutting it off, right? And just being present, right? To watch the show, to have a conversation, to look in your kids' eyes, to see what has truly changed in them, to listen to the voice in somebody's, the tone in somebody's voice, right? Just being present for 5 or 10 minutes. Because this is coming up in my spirit, when you're present, and if the spirit is like around you, right? And you're busy. And if we think about the spirit being like the blinds, right? Like that, I'm just trying to say like the blinds, or if you think about a push-up pop, you remember push-up pops, right? It's a container and you can push it up and the ice cream is in it. When you're present, that's what you're allowing, right? You're allowing the spirit now to drop in. So not I'm just not present with you. But guess what? Now our spirits are talking to each other. Now our energy has time to connect and flow, right? And catch up. But when I'm not present, then I'm not allowing all of the intelligence, all of the spiritualness, all of the other stuff that makes my experience more grand and more easier to get to work. All right. So when I'm not resting, my body is not performing the way it should. It's not doing the things that it should do, right? To digest, to reset, to get rid of, to restore, right? And then if I'm not present with you, right? If I'm not holding a space for this conversation, then now it's just me working to try to get you to understand something. And that's a lot of work. But when I'm present now and I'm listening and I'm aware, now our spirits, right? And we know the spirit knows everything, right? So what I'm trying to communicate, now I'm actually allowing a space for the spirit to tell your spirit that, or when you do that, you're allowing your spirit to tell me some things. And now it's like this multiple conversations and multiple information is being exchanged between you and I, between you and your kids, between you and your mate, that otherwise ain't happening because you're so busy. And then we start to feel that way, right? We start to feel that way because now you are taking control of everything. And a life of ease is allowing all of the things that God created. That means the unseen things, right? The spiritual things, the intellectual things, the emotional things, your physical things, right? The senses, all of these now get to, in a sense, come together and collectively work together for the good of you and the person that you're being present with, or the people in the room. All right. Listen, I had a client that said, once I stopped proving and started pacing myself, I produced less, but I achieved so much more. Right. I remember her saying that, and it was like she got emotional because it disrupted every belief that she had, right? Every belief that she had. And if you know me, right? If you know me, you know my journey, because 20-year-old Sheila, I had five businesses. Like, I'm sitting on boards. I'm the mother of three. I'm going to school, right? And I just like, you know what, this season, I don't have to get wider. I'm just going to keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And we know the deeper you go, you hit what? You going to hit the well, right? You going to hit the water, what is it? Reservoir, right? A reservoir of water that I only got to work for once I hit it, right? So in my programs and anything I'm creating, which is again why my focus is Project Life, Project Hope, and then I have Project Brandon, which is a project that's specifically for men, right? Working with their micro emotions. But those are the three pillars, right? That everything is built around to really become more effective and more efficient in what I'm doing. And I challenge you to do the same thing because, like I said, the client that I work with said, once I stop proving and start pacing myself, I produce less, but I achieved so much more. Okay, listen, research supports this. Studies show that intrinsic motivation and emotional regulation improves performance more sustainably than external validation and pressure. What that means is that your intrinsic motivation and your own ability to emotionally regulate is your motivating factor. All right. And it's going to motivate you and be more sustainable than all of the applause and all of the pressure, right? Because the applause and the pressure may get you up to do the thing, right? But will it sustain you to complete the thing? And a lot of us, when we're doing things for applause and validation, we never see it to completion because that energy got us into the space. But is it going to be enough to sustain you to actually execute, to actually go through the discovery, the implementation, right? The discovery, the strategy, the implementation, and the executing of the thing that you want to do? See that? To execute, that's a you thing. That's a you thing. I had the pleasure of going to a open house this weekend with one of my good friends, and she created a business, and I just want to see what the name of her business. She does like interior design, and she's just so phenomenal. But what makes her way more phenomenal is she's an executor, right? So if you've ever worked with a handyman, right, they come in and they'll put the walls up, right, and everything, and then it's time now to put the baseboards, right? So you put the floors down, you painted everything, now it's time to put the baseboards in, right? And it's these finishing details that you pay attention to. So you didn't really caulk you didn't caulk the baseboards, or you probably cut them a little too short, or or didn't even finish it all together. So then I got to call somebody else to come in to do the baseboards, right? Or to fix the paint that you didn't really do right. So when we start talking about executing type of things, that's where we go in, and it's the fine tuning. And this what makes her just like the best design person, because she's going to work with the contractor, and she's like your middle person. So she's working with the contractor, and she's not just working with the contractor so the contractor can, put the walls up or tear the walls down. I mean, she's going to get it to every detail. Like when you look at the painting, when you look at the corners, when you look at how things were done, like it's these integral details that I feel like is just so phenomenal. So her company is called Tailored Luxury Home Design, and you can go to her YouTube page. And I think her YouTube page is Taylor Luxury Home Design, and see how she, just designs things, and it looks beautiful to the eye. But if you're a person that sees execution and you work with contracting, you understand that she is like at a whole different level just because of her ability to execute. So again, studies show that intrinsic motivation and emotional regulation, it improves your performance more sustainably than external validation and pressure. And all that means is that, listen, you got to get it from within, right? You got to start to motivate from within. And to do that, you need focus, right? You need focus, you need encouragement, and you need to learn how to be your best friend and kind of give yourself what you need so that you can be in flow, right? Listen, you don't need more grind. You just really need more groundness, all right? So let's get into our spotlight, which is the life framework. All right. We know on Monday we talked about love of self. On Tuesday we talked about love of self. Wednesday we talked about interactions with others, and it's Friday, the F, and we're talking about focus and function. All right, focus and function. So here's 10 truths that I really want you to know about focus and function when it comes to embracing your enoughness. Okay, listen, wholeness doesn't rust. All right, doesn't rush. I'm sorry. Wholeness doesn't rush. Listen, you don't have to sprint to stay in alignment. Like my good friend Dre says, you have to learn how to live at your own pace. All right. You got to lay up it. All right. Live at your own pace. And in a sense, start to enjoy the fruits of your labor. All right. And it may look like somebody else is collecting way more than you, but if you savoring yours, guess what? Just the mere fact that you're giving it homage, that you're, acknowledging it, it will start to yield and multiply, right? So you don't have to sprint to stay in alignment. Your value doesn't increase with speed, you guys. When you're whole, you don't chase. You choose. All right. When you're whole, you don't chase, you choose. And a lot of us are chasing because we're not whole yet. We're not whole yet. And that's okay. All right. But we need to work towards wholeness so we can have more to choose from in life. All right. Number 2, rest reveals alignment, not laziness. All right. Listen, you don't have to collapse to justify your rest. Like, oh, I just got to collapse. Like, no, right. True rest is a sign that you're connected, not falling apart. Rest is obedience to your enoughness. All right. I'm enough to lay down. I'm enough to get these hours of sleep. And you hear me say, I know we have a sleep doctor here that works with people if you have some sleep issues or sleep apnea. I forgot sleep apnea. I don't know the word. I mean, I know the word, but my tongue is not going to allow that word to come out. But if you have to get a machine because you're a person that sleeps and, and you kind of stop breathing, right? We want to make sure that we're taking care of that so that our body can do what it needs to do in our time of rest, right? And it's a lot, especially our men who have this, right, where they just not sleeping, right, and not getting a rest because they're like not breathing when they go to sleep. And so rest is so important. So if you need to see a sleep doctor, if you need to go to your doctor and really check on that, I would just encourage you to do that, because rest is obedience to your enoughness, right? And when you learn how to put, oh, and I was going to say this too, and a lot of us don't sleep like for 8 hours, right? So some people sleep for 4 hours, they wake up, they sleep another 4 hours, right? We just want to make sure we're getting some REM sleep, right? Where your body is going into a REM state, right? Where it's going into a deep state so it can repair itself. And when you train your body to do that, and you work on meditative things to do and breathing and stuff like that, you can reprogram your body to go 6 to 8 hours of sleep. Now, I'm a person, I couldn't sleep past 3 hours. Listen, 3 hours and I'm up, and I had to like, no, we got to work on this, because I at least want to have a sleep of 6 hours, and getting up to 5 hours, I feel good, right? And then like, okay, 6 hours. And then sometimes I can go over into the 7, 8 hours. That's not always, but definitely I'm getting more than 5 hours of sleep. But I definitely had to train myself to do that. But remember, I was a person that hustled, right? I mean, I'm doing hair. I wake up, I go to work. I'm working to 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. I gotta go to sleep from 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock, get up, take my sons to school, go back to work, right? Go to school, do that. So I had to train my body that, and really thought that I could only work off of 3 hours of sleep, right? And I'm taking energy drinks and I'm doing all of the stuff to stay woke through the day, which is also affecting how I sleep at night and things like that. And then I just had to stop, like, no. And that's one of the things that I work with my clients with, like, let's work on your rest. Okay. And rest is sometimes not always sleep either, just resting moments, right? Where you're just being and not doing. Number 3, productivity isn't a measure of your value. You are not only valuable when you're producing, okay? You are valuable when you're resting, when you're breathing, and reflecting and becoming. All right. You are valuable in all of those states. Listen, grind. Number 4, grind is not your God. Grace is. All right. Grace is. You wasn't designed to grind. You were designed to grow. All right. And grace carries what hustle can only imitate. All right. Number 5, doing less can sometimes create more. Okay. Sometimes saying no is the most productive thing that you can do. Less chaos, more clarity, less proving, more peace. All right. So sometimes less can create more. All right. So we have to learn how to say no to some things. All right. Because it's going to create less chaos. All right. Less chaos, and it's going to create the less proving or less performative energy. Number 6, busy isn't always effective. It's just noisy, right? So we probably all had this stage, just sounding busy. I have a great friend, and I talked to her, and she talking to somebody else, answering the phone. She doing work, and I was like, "Listen, you just so busy. Call me back, friend." Right? Like, because it gets noisy, right? Listen, noise feels like movement, but it rarely leads to meaning. Listen, busyness can mask emptiness, but purpose flows in our silence. All right. Purpose flows in our silence. Now, our silence, I have to say this because it's coming up in my spirit to say this. Your silence may be room for you to hear. Okay. All right. So your silence is just maybe room for you to hear. So you're silent. That don't mean that your mind and your thoughts aren't like talking and there's not chatter there. It's just that you're not responding, right? You're just like in pause. You're more of the witness of those thoughts. All right. All right. So purpose flows in silence. So when I can sit back and I can be a witness to these thoughts, then sometimes similar to kids, when they know you watching, they'll calm down. Okay. They'll calm down. All right. I always get this analogy. That's what meditation does, right? So the kids in the room, they just jumping on the couch, falling everywhere, right? And then the authority comes in the room and the kids look like, oh, there go mama. Let's sit down, right? And so when you practice meditation, a lot of times that's what happens with your thoughts, right? But if you come in a room just as loud, right, and just as, not in silence, just kind of, how I had a grandfather. He was definitely an authority person. He didn't have to say much. He just come in the room and we look and we already know what to do, right? Like, it's time to sit down and be quiet. But on the times where he came in and he was more disciplined, disciplining us, guess what? We got loud because we cried, we hollered, we didn't want the whooping, we was trying to explain and all of that. So that's similar to your thoughts. When you come in very disciplinary and you're trying to, in a sense, whoop the thoughts or judge the thoughts, then they're going to defend themselves. So that it seems like they're getting noisier and more busy. But if you just come in silence and you just become the witness, then they'll know, oh, she mean business or he mean business. All right. So again, busyness is an effect. So again, doing busyness isn't always effective. It's just noisy. Number 7, pausing is progress when it's done with purpose. All right, listen, pausing is progress when it's done with purpose. A pause isn't procrastination. Okay, we need to separate the difference. It's protection. Okay, I had to learn this. And when I learned it, then I got to teach it, right? So sometimes you're pausing with the intention, right? Pausing with intention is not procrastination. Procrastination is when you're avoiding, right? Like, I know I need to wash those dishes. Again, I always say procrastination is an emotional thing, right? It's something that you don't want to do. It's something you don't want to feel. So you're going to pivot, right, into something else. But if I'm pausing on the dishes and with an intention, right, then it's protection. It's how you honor timing, your capacity, and your alignment. So if I look at those dishes and I say, I can get to those in the morning, I feel that, right, then I'm protecting my energy and my capacity because I know that I might not have the capacity to do it effectively in this moment. So I'm protecting me, right? I'm protecting my energy and my timing with the intention that it will get done. All right. That it will get done. And procrastination is very different, right? It's like you're waiting until the last minute. You're avoiding because of and binge watching and doing all of this stuff. And it's like reeling in the back of your head, you know, or you've hid it somewhere in the back of your mind, right? So that's more procrastination. So pause isn't procrastination, it's protection. It's how you honor your timing, your capacity, and your alignment. All right. Number 8, your mind needs margins to move in clarity. All right. If you're always rushing, you'll miss the revelation. All right. Listen, creativity, wisdom, and clarity needs space to speak. All right. So your mind, it needs margins to move. It needs clarity. It needs guidelines. And that is what you at this at this grown age of an adult is there to do. Put the margins in. All right. Number 9, time doesn't need to be filled. It needs to be honored. You've heard me say it. Time is your most valuable asset. People say, money is your most valuable. No, time is your most valuable asset. All right. So stop trying to squeeze worth into every moment. All right. Listen, presence doesn't come from pressure. It comes from peace. All right. And with this valuable asset is how do I choose to use my time? All right. And how am I choosing to honor my time? And I don't have to make sure that every minute of my day is attached to some type of output, right? I can make time for me being present with me. All right. And last but not least, presence will always outperform pressure. All right. Listen, pressure demands urgency, but your presence, it invites authority. All right. You lead better when you stop performing and you start just being you, right? The person that God created you to be. And if you don't know how to do that, then this is your next season to learn. All right. To learn. All right. So let's get to our biblical wisdom and embodied insight. All right. I like that. I like these, and I hope that you like them as well. All right. Our principal verse for today, Psalms 127 and 2. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives to his beloved sleep. Okay, listen, I'm gonna read it again. It is in vain that you rise up early and go late to rest, eating the bread of anxious toil, for he gives you beloved sleep. All right, listen, the interpretation of this scripture isn't criticizing hard work, you guys. It's calling out anxious toil. All right. It speaks to the grind mindset that convinces us if we if we're not constantly doing, then we're falling apart. Listen, God isn't impressed by hustle. He moves by your trust. All right. This verse reminds you that he gives rest, not as a luxury, but as a gift of his love. All right. So the Spirit of God in you does not bark commands or chase deadlines. It doesn't rush. It actually rests, right? And it reminds you that you are already healed, you're already loved, and you're already worthy. Now, are you silencing yourself enough to witness that? All right? Because when you live from the God in you, peace becomes your pace. All right. And we all have our own rhythm. It's interesting. I had a conversation with my friend yesterday, and my rhythm and her rhythm is different. And I love that we can have a conversation, a healthy conversation about our rhythms being different, and she's like, well, you just this. And I'm like, oh, our rhythms are different. Like I'm on my rhythm, you're on your rhythm. And me being on my rhythm is in no way trying to disrespect or dishonor or even do anything to you, right? I respect that. But one of the things that I request is that you understand that we are not on the same rhythm. And when you want me on your rhythm, understand that it's an outcome attached to that I have no connection to, right? So the clearer you are with me about your expectation, right, then the more I can adjust my rhythm, right, for that expectation. But if we're just casual, right, and we're casual, so my rhythm is your rhythm, and you have an outcome attached to my presence or me showing up that I have no desire about, and now you're mad because that outcome didn't happen because our rhythms were off, then that's not on me, that's on your lack of communication. Just communicate what you need from me, and then I can tell you if I'm able to do it or if I'm not able to do it. And, I don't know if it's the Aquarius in me or whatever, but sometimes I can be a little less emotional about things and a lot more just, honest and transparent about it. And sometimes it can seem very dismissive, which is why then I had to have a conversation of I don't mind adjusting my rhythm for my friends, but I do uh love the courtesy of let me know what the output is, right? Don't judge me for not showing up to something I didn't even know I was going to show up for, and vice versa. I've done it to people before, and then I had to learn how to say, hey, I needed you to be here because when you got here, we was going to do this, that, and the other. And now we can't do this, that, and the other because you came an hour late or because you didn't respond or whatever that is. But it was a failure for me to even communicate the this, that, and the other because I was hoping that they would show up at this time and then we could do this, that, and the other. And I think that it was just unfair to the friendship that I moved in that way. And when I learned that, then that became my guiding expectation and standard for other people, because I know that my rhythm is not like yours, and let's respect that and then learn how to become in harmony with each other, because I want to do the thing that you want me to do, right? And we can be in harmony the more we communicate and the more clear we can be about those expectations. All right. So again, the Spirit of God in you doesn't, bark at commands or chase your deadlines. It doesn't rush. It rests, and it reminds you that you are already held, already loved, and already worthy. So when you live from the God in you, peace becomes your pace. And neuroscience actually supports this, because when you live in a constant state of hustle, guess what? Your brain operates in survival mode. And when it's operating in survival mode, it's triggering your stress response, which is that fight or flight, freeze or fawn, right? And so sleep becomes shallow, clarity disappears, and burnout rises. But when rest and regulated rhythms actually restore your emotional resilience. It increases your focus and it protects your nervous system. So rest isn't soft, it's a strategic way to become whole, right? And to heal. All right. Our promise verse for today, Matthew 11:28. Come to me, all ye who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. All right. Listen, Jesus or Yahshua the Messiah isn't asking for perfection, right? He's offering peace, right? This verse speaks to the soul tired, right? The one trying to earn love, achieve enoughness, and prove worth through endless output. It's a reminder that rest isn't a weakness, all right? It's a rhythm of the redeemed, all right? So the peace of God in you doesn't have to be earned, all right? It has to be accessed, though. And accessing it looks like choosing stillness, honoring your capacity, right? And no longer trying to produce or being productive to your identity, or trying to productify. Now, I'm just made that word up. Your identity. All right. Listen, neuroscience supports this by saying your brain is not wired to grind, to endless grind. All right. It needs cycles of rest to function clearly. All right. Rest improves your memory. Rest improves your emotional regulation. Rest improves your decision making. So it's not just a spiritual afterthought, it's a biological restoration. All right. So the body confirms what the spirit declares first. Peace is your portion. All right. Peace is your portion. So again, come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. And this rest is required because God understands this machine, this human being, this being that it created, right? And it knows what it needs. All right. And in the Bible, it speaks about rest so much, and it understands that this is a rhythm, right? So it needs cycles of rest to really function clearly. All right. So here's your question. What could shift in your productivity if rest was a part of your spiritual practice, not just something you earned? And I say intentionally a part of your spiritual practice. Let that sit in your spirit, all right? Because the way you work will never be sustainable until it's surrendered to the truth, all right? You are already enough before the task is actually completed. So let's put this into practice. I need you to list three tasks you're doing just to prove something. All right. And then I want you to cross one off without guilt. And then I wanted you to replace that with oh, excuse me. All right. So I want you to replace it with one aligned act that feels like peace. All right. Your journal prompt for today: where have I been? This is your journal prompt. Where have I been trying to earn my value through productivity? And how can I shift towards purpose? All right. Your affirmation for today: I do not hustle for my worth. I produce from peace. All right. And then your intention today: I give myself permission to work from presence, not from pressure. And then your challenge: I want you to unplug from one busy behavior and replace it with a 15 minutes of meaningful stillness. All right. Listen, if this session really resonated with you, you already know what to do. Drop a fire in the chat, right? And let's celebrate our growth together. Make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel so you can, communicate with me. Okay. Invite a friend to the Facebook Elevate in Life group. All right. And if you haven't already, make sure you join the project at SheilaLittle.com/life. All right, /life. And here is your call, your challenge, and your charge. I'm calling and I'm asking, where have you been hustling for approval? And then I want to challenge you to release one task today that doesn't align with your truth. And then your charge: you are not a machine, you're a masterpiece. So rest accordingly and go shape your life. Here's my closing remarks: you don't earn your way into rest. You live from the truth that you are already enough. The most powerful productivity flow is your peace. All right. I will be back Sunday. I don't work on Saturdays. I've been trying to get the work in, but actually I don't work on Saturdays. So if you notice, nothing happens on Saturdays. There is a post that'll go up tomorrow, but I'll be back on Sunday to wrap up our Rise series. All right. And we're going to talk about integration and invitation. All right. This is the voice of enoughness. All right. And the focus for that is going to be living from rhythm and not from performance. Here's your takeaway though. You don't have to hustle to be holy. You are enough. Your enoughness is a starting point. Guess what? Not the finish line, not the finish line. And I want you to always remember that if you can shape it in your mind, you can have it in your life. I want you to know I love you. I love you. I love you. And I will see you on Sunday for that life lesson. Till later.